Welcome back to Untold Stories. I'm here with Alex Giannetti. He's a realtor with Remax, but he also is here because he wrote a book called Great People Know Great People. And it's a book about networking. And I want you to tell me a little bit about the book. But first, I want to know a little bit about you. Tell me your background, your history. If someone says, who is Alex Giannetti? What does he do? What's his background? Briefly, just tell me how you got to where you are.
Right.
And then we're going to talk about this book and this book journey. Like you
Right.
wrote your first book, which is fascinating to me. This is why you're here. But tell me a little bit about Alex Giannetti.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a loaded question. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes
right.
version, mini style. So first, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So I got my start. Was working a normal job, out slaying the dragon. My wife was at home homeschooling the babies, and I just wanted to be home, you know. So I started reading a bunch of books: Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Quadrant.
You're talking my man's books here. Yeah, Jeremy and I, we had a podcast on those books.
Okay, well, Cash Flow Quadrant kind of wrecked me
Yeah.
because I went off the deep end. Luckily, my wife held me back a little bit, but we were in Southern California at the time, and I started buying residential real estate sight unseen, out of state, and did that in 2004. We bought 5 properties. 2005, we bought 5 more. I didn't necessarily do it the right way, at least the second 5. Found myself with 10 residential rentals paying for 11 mortgages. And every time we just kept moving up and up and up into the dream home, gated community, pool, whole 9 yards. Mortgage crisis hits just as I had quit my job to get into real estate full time because I thought I was a real estate genius. And I didn't want to be in real estate sales because I didn't want someone calling me up and then I got to jump through every hoop to go service you. I was more of a numbers guy. I'll be the numbers guy behind the scenes. I got into the loan side of things. I could continue coaching my kids' soccer teams and living my life on the weekends and things. And man, right when I quit my job, the anvil came down on that nest egg that I had. Everything I had was in real estate. My income, my assets, everything. And I was sole provider. So the whole market absolutely collapses and we were left standing there staring at each other. So that kind of led to and started where my networking journey began and launched. And so in that, quitting my job and jumping in full time, I had never done this kind of stuff before. I never had to. I didn't know what I was doing. So I got my start in Southern California. We moved to Pittsburgh because of my wife's job in 2014. And then I was able to come to Pittsburgh having had years and years and years of networking experience in my back pocket, and came here and then just kind of put those things into practice. Because again, I moved here without knowing a single person. And in doing so was just such a great experience now looking back in terms of being able to put some of the things into practice that I had learned. And that really is what kind of drove me to write the book. Is I was coming here and I'm networking with people, I'm meeting people in meetings, and I realized, man, I feel like you're going about this the wrong way. And I feel like as I'm looking around, I thought, man, the things that have been successful for me, I didn't find others doing. I found others doing what I used to do, which is kind of just mimic and copy other people. So I found myself really just enjoying the opportunities as I started to build relationships around here and some credibility. Then, you get opportunities to speak at a meeting, and rather than talk about real estate, no one wants to hear about real estate. There's a million realtors out there, and they all think they're geniuses. So no one wants to hear from them, right? So instead, I figured I'll get up and I'll talk to you about how to do a 30-second commercial, or let me get up and talk to you about how to have a one-to-one with somebody. And those really were powerful interactions.
Yeah, I can see why. Because when you take that approach, like, let's not talk about me, let's help the group raise the level of this group. Because if we keep talking about us, the group stays down here, not doing it correctly. So you saw a problem, like, these guys aren't networkers. It's not helping me to be in a room with people who don't network properly. So then the priority becomes, let's show people how to network. Because then we all rise at that point, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people watching in that. I mean, you're in some of these meetings with me, and you get up and you watch somebody stand up and deliver a message, and sometimes you think, man, that's terrible, or that's really self-promoting, or I don't want to do that. I don't want others to feel what I just felt when that was said or the way that was delivered. So what can I do different? What can I do to pull people in versus, I feel like we're a magnet. We all have this magnet. One end is positive, it's going to attract. The other one is negative, and it's going to repel. So what side do we want to put out there? I want to put the right side of the magnet out there. And that is just to be a resource and attractive to others, not in that sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? From a business standpoint, from a collaborative standpoint, from a relational standpoint. Others come to you, they're drawn to you, they just want to know more. Let the business stuff will take care of itself, down the line.
So what causes people to join a networking group? We know why they join. They want to grow their business. But they go in there with a seller mentality. In a room, it's not a flea market. I think
Right.
people don't get that. They go, I'm going here to sell, but no one goes there to buy,
Yeah.
which is what I tell everyone. It's just, you're not, people say, I want to buy insurance. They don't show up at a networking meeting.
Right.
So how do you explain to someone that we're not here to sell when they're there to sell?
I've never brought my checkbook. That's old. I just dated myself, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even then, I don't walk in with my Apple Pay open up, ready to go.
Yeah.
But I did walk into my first networking meeting without a clue of what I was doing, and so I thought my job was to just get my business cards into other people's hands. Who teaches us how to do this,
Yeah.
right? And that was a motivation for me to write the book. Was no one taught me how to do this. I made every mistake you could possibly make. Shoving my card into people's hands and trying to push, at the time, interest rates and talk about these things when no one wanted to hear about it. We're in the middle of a mortgage crisis.
Yeah.
When I introduced myself as a loan guy, I think everyone was like, oh, poor guy,
It's happening
right?
now, kind of
yeah.
right now, yeah.
Oh, it's terrible, And so I just didn't have the right mindset, but I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know, So I've come full circle. I've learned over the years. And now it's just a matter of kind of letting people know it's okay to be different, have a different mindset. You have to go in with the mentality that this is a crock pot, not a microwave.
Right.
If you're in there thinking I'm going to stick my card in a bunch of people's hands and they're going to hand over money and referrals to me, just don't waste your time going.
Yeah, I know you told me a story of how you used to network in California. And when you came here, you were more deliberate and intentional about your networking because of what worked and what didn't work. And the name of your book is Great People Know Great People.
Right.
Now, tell me the story of why that title matters and why you applied those messages here deliberately. Because I know the story, and I want you to tell that story about how do great people know great people and how do you get to those great people?
Yeah. So, it comes back to, as a parent, you may have been told this as a kid, but I told my kids too. It's like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, right? If your kids are hanging out with bad kids, that's not a good thing, right? You might have a great kid and where this is going, right? If they're hanging out with good kids, it's likely that they're going to continue hanging out with good kids and that network is going to expand. The same thing happens to us as adults, and it happens to us in the business world. And so if I meet someone awesome and they introduce me to someone, that person's going to be awesome. So that's where that book title came from. And I realized really quick it was an unintended consequence. It's literally the chapter title of chapter 1. I went to my first networking meeting, Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber, and it's a highly attended meeting. It was at the Doubletree Hotel in Cranberry. And I walk into this room. There's probably 30 plus people in this room. There's got a horseshoe-shaped layout, and the tables were pushed back against a wall. So it really wasn't conducive to the open networking part of the meeting. But the middle section was wide open because people were all lined up around their seats. I got there fairly early, and I walked up, and I'm new to Pittsburgh. I don't know anybody. I got some business cards in my pocket, and my goal was I just got to meet one person that is going to agree to meet me for coffee, have the one-to-one. So the one thing I haven't disclosed yet is that I'm an introvert. That is not my scene. I would much rather just stand against a wall and just hide. There are people out there who have the gift of gab and can walk up to a stranger and strike up a conversation like nobody's business. That is not me. I have to work at that and fight against everything I have just to get out of my car and walk in. So here I am. I'm in this place. I got to build my business. I don't know a single person. And I'm standing there, and the room wasn't as friendly. And sometimes you go into these meetings and there's these cliques. Everyone seems to know each other. So they're in their little pods, which is very normal. No one really jumped out and said, hey, you look kind of new, or you look lost, or you look terrified. Right. No one said anything, right? And so it's one of those things where I know what I'm supposed to do. And even then, I didn't do it. I just kind of sat there a little bit. So the meeting's getting ready to start. John's getting ready to start the meeting. John McCool, he says, hey, folks, we're getting ready to start. And just as he says that, this woman walks in the door. When she walks in the door, there's another woman on this side of the room that screams her name and starts waving. And then a woman on the side she jumped in on jumps up and runs over and gives her a big hug. And I thought, I don't know who that is, but that's her. Like, that's the one I'm going to go talk to. So I waited that whole meeting, did my thing, gave my commercial, went through the whole process. And then I sat there. It was almost like I'm asking a girl out on a date again. You know, I mean, I'm married. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just establish and get some cadence here on getting my feet wet in Pittsburgh with networking. And I walked right up to her and said, hey, I'm Alex Giannetti. I'm new to Pittsburgh, and I'd love to meet you for coffee and find out more about your business and how I might be able to help. And she did exactly what I thought she would do. She turned around, she goes, absolutely. We exchanged cards, and she said, let's connect. So we met for coffee, a week later or so. 90-minute conversation just about our families. Nothing else. We didn't talk business. We didn't talk anything else. We just talked about our families, our kids, stuff that our boys were doing, and all these different things that we seem to have in common, even though she's from, Butler, Pennsylvania, and I grew up in Southern California. So I go to my next networking meeting the following Tuesday, and as I walk in the door, she's standing in a group of 3 other guys, and she's going like this, and she's going like this and waving me in. And I'm thinking, is she talking to me? I know her, kind of, I guess. We met, but I don't know anyone else. And I'm looking over my shoulder. There's no one behind me. She's talking to me. And I thought, So I go walking over, and as I walk over, I thought, whoa. Wait, this is cool. She's going to introduce me to these guys. And if these guys are anything like her, they're going to be some great people, right? And sure enough, out of that, group, she introduced me. She said, hey, have you guys met Alex? He's new from California. He's a great guy. You should get a chance to meet him. And so right then and there, they're excited to meet me because they know her. And so that's when that happened, and it all clicked. And it all clicked had nothing to do with business. It was all about building a relationship and getting to know someone for who they are. She was a wedding planner. It wasn't like I was going to, people go into a networking meeting with, I got to meet the attorney or the banker or I'm really looking for someone who does X because that's my golden goose. That's where my referrals are going to come from. I'm not saying don't do that, but don't focus on that. Focus on the person. Focus on someone who is a great person because they are going to know great people. And if you connect with that person and you hit it off and you're able to, even if you're just trying to find ways to connect that person and send them business or continue to introduce them to people that that's what builds a relationship right then and there.
Yeah, I think when people talk about sales and networking, I hate to call sales. I like to refer to it as relationship building because the relationship has to come first. And you don't just walk up to someone and say, hey, you want to go to my cousin's wedding? You just can't say that. There has to be some sort of foundation. And the depth of the relationship matters. And it doesn't matter, like you said, I've talked to people who are professional networkers, and they said, you got to find someone who you have the same clients in common with. You could do like you're an accountant and you know a bookkeeper or you know a mortgage broker, you know payroll. But what you're saying is I'm looking for a type of person because the relationship starts. So instead of walking into a room and saying, I'm looking for this person with a mission, we're saying be intentful on a strategy, having a strategy, but be open to meeting the right person and not so much the personality or the type of person or the quality of person maybe, as opposed to what they do for a living. Because what people do and who they are completely unrelated. You could meet someone who's strategically good for you, but not a good person. Right. Now, did you really waste your time? Was that strategic? Or was it better? What you're saying is like, get to know a good person. That'll be faster than meeting the right person strategically who's not a good networker. Yeah. Because good people are good networkers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is, I was thinking about this just the other day. We all kind of have that golden goose that kind of
feeds us up,
feeds you those referrals. And the person that I really connected with, and we've done a ton of business where she's been an amazing referral source to me, amazing. And we have a personal relationship. We definitely have a personal relationship. We don't necessarily have a business relationship. I try to refer business to her, but her industry is different, and we're just not there. But she's constantly, sending me people, referring business to me. It's awesome. But she's a great person. Everyone she knows is of that caliber. And so having that relationship doesn't necessarily mean that I get the kind of symbiotic relationship, hey, you do insurance and I do mortgage,
Right.
and we got to work together. And I agree with those things. And I think it's good to have those kind of referral partners and those power partners, if you will. But don't you think that the florist knows people who can give you referrals? Don't you think that, the carpenter or the handyman or the plumber, the goal is that you're someone that they think of when your topic comes up, whatever it is.
So when someone's networking, we'll call networking the actual intentional networking part of it. And when I say that, I don't mean what you're talking about in your book. I mean, you join a networking group for the purpose of networking.
Yeah.
Like we can network anywhere.
Yes.
Our bowling league, our churches, our schools, our colleges, our kids, friends, parents, those are all networks. But when you strategically join a networking group, the people who do that, what is the biggest mistake you see when someone says, I'm going to a networking group and I'm going to do X? And they commonly, what's a common mistake when you intentionally go to a networking group to network?
It's going to sound backwards to everyone when I say this, but it's self-promotion. People go in and they're like, I need to make a splash. I need people to know what I do. And depending on what you do, you're going to turn people off so fast.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Me as a realtor, if I walk in the room and start talking about what a great realtor I am, so what? Everyone in the room knows 50 realtors, right? That can't be my approach. It can't be. So instead, it needs to be different. It needs to be, hey, I want to get to know you, right? And it should be, rather than me trying to promote myself, let me just allow you to find your way to me as you feel comfortable. My intention should be, how many awesome people are in this room? How many great people are in this room that I can meet and get to know that I can refer business to? Because that's another thing that helps me. If I meet you and you're awesome at what you do and I feel comfortable with you, that I can refer business to you, you make me look good to my base that I already have. Now, if over time you realize, hey, this Alex guy's pretty good, I like him. If he's half as good at what he does as he is with me and in our interactions, why wouldn't I would feel comfortable referring him to someone as well? And slowly that happens. But I think too many people, especially when you get into like financial planning, insurance, and all these things, some of us have a bad reputation. Some of these industries have a bad reputation, and
They're always on.
yeah,
They're always talking about business. They're always talking about work.
Yeah.
And I think that gets identified quickly, whether you realize it or not.
And if
People
you're the
see
guy
that.
who's doing things differently, isn't that going to make people's heads turn a little bit?
So what would be a good strategy? So I'm going into a networking group. I'm leaving my house. I'm getting ready to go. I know my commercial. Mm-hmm. What is a goal, a reasonable goal based on your book that would make it a successful meeting that might be contrary to what everyone thinks? What makes a networking meeting successful when you walk out, X, Y, Z happened? What were those things?
It's really simple. And I already gave that example away,
Right.
right? But for me personally, I don't want to walk out of a networking meeting without having set up a one-to-one. Someone in that room, when people are giving their commercials, what I've seen is most people are like, when it's my time to give my commercial, I stand up, I deliver my message, and I sit down, and I'm kind of proud of myself and full of myself. And then they turn around really quick, and they get on their phone, and they start checking their email, checking their Instagram, whatever. They're not paying attention to what anybody else is saying.
Yeah.
When I go to these meetings, it's not so much about my commercial as much as it is about everyone else's. I want to hear what you have to say because I'm going to learn about you a little bit. And so I'm listening to what you say, and I'm writing down your name and what your industry is. And if there's anything that intrigues me about you, hey, there's something special. Even if it's just I like the way you carry yourself, right? That's a professional right there. I'm circling that, and I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do. You could be another realtor.
Right. Now, people would be normally,
Oh.
I won't go for that.
No.
But if I walk into a room and my goal is, like you said, my goal is to meet good people and to listen and to not necessarily focus on the strategy, but I want to meet good people, and I'm going to walk out of here with a one-to-one.
Yeah.
But if I walk in there with this strategy, like putting off, like that's another realtor.
Yeah.
What are you throwing away? When you don't talk with another realtor, you think that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Why would I talk with another realtor? Nothing's going to happen. What could happen if you build a relationship with another realtor? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Right. It's the wrong mindset. So number one, you could work together, right? When you're writing that offer for your client and you're sending it over to, the man or the woman that you met at the group, and you got to know and got to find out about their family and asked them a lot of questions and got to know them as a person and really kind of hit it off. And it's like, okay, technically, I guess we're battling against each other, but not really. There's millions of houses out there. There's plenty of them for us, right? And let's just agree that we can work together. But don't you think your offer has a little bit better chance to go through when that agent says, when that agent's telling their seller, hey man, I know we're going to have a good transaction with this guy, right? And all of a sudden that might trump, over someone else's offer. Or it could be, hey, look, man, I really don't like, listing triplexes. I had a bad experience. Can I give this to you? Or can, you work out some kind of a referral system or something on deals that they're not comfortable with, or areas they don't want to go to, but they trust you with their client. You never know.
Yeah. So you mentioned in your book that authenticity matters the most, being yourself.
Yeah.
So when you walk in a room, it's not so much you're turning right into a DJ and you got a personality and you want to hide your real personality, but you're trying to become this person, this networker or the professional. What does authenticity do for people, and how do they know they're being authentic, or how do you identify authenticity?
So, I guess you have to interact with someone over time to find out if they're really authentic, because they're going to show you what they want to show you.
Yeah.
I think that you should walk into a meeting and be you completely. Because if you are going to hit it off with someone who you have this relationship or an attraction to each other from a business standpoint, you want them to find the right you attractive, right?
Right. If you're being somebody else, you're teaching them, like, they don't know who you are.
They don't know who you are.
You're being somebody that you're teaching them. And they're thinking, oh, you're trying to be something that I like, but I'm getting to know the wrong person.
Yeah.
I'm really getting to know you.
Just be you. If they like you, great. If they don't like you, that's fine too, right? You can't, you're not going to hit it off with everyone, but if you're genuine, the right people, the people that you want to interact with are the ones that will be drawn to you.
So what's realistic? If I join a networking group and my first year doesn't go as well as I expected. Now, you've been networking for a long time, and you've gotten business from networking inside a real networking group and outside a networking group.
Right.
So I'm telling you, Alex, I want to start networking in this group. When can I expect to see something? To give me an example of, like, I networked for so long and it took X amount of time before something happened, and how long should I wait?
Yeah. So much of that has to do on what you do, right? And how much your product costs or your service costs. I mean, let's face it. But I'll tell you my personal story. So I joined, I became a realtor, got my license May 5th, 2014. I had already started attending the chamber prior to that, so sometime in April that year. I started door knocking in Pittsburgh. I was knocking on 1,000 doors a month. So I was knocking on 1,000 doors a month, and I'm attending networking meetings nonstop, May for the rest of the year. I closed my first transaction on December 23rd of that year. It was a referral from my networking. And it wasn't even the chamber. It was another group that I now run.
Did it come from the woman that you met?
No, it didn't.
It didn't. Okay.
It didn't.
Was it from someone that she knew?
Well, that was the first buyer-controlled sale that I had.
Okay.
My first listing came from that interaction of, hey, Alex is a great guy. You guys got to get to know him. One of those four gentlemen called me one day and said, hey, I got a buddy of mine that's being transferred. Verizon is moving to Texas, and they got to sell their house. He's interviewing a realtor. Do you want to be one of them? I said, absolutely. He interviewed 8 agents, and I got the job. And I still shaking my head to this day how that happened. But It was awesome. And that was my first listing. And that was probably April the following year. So maybe a year full round. But I'll tell you this. I had one sale in 2014 in Pittsburgh. 2015 was my best year ever in real estate to that point, going back to California all those years. And it was all of that work and all of those seeds that had planted just started growing. And I'll tell you that today, most of my referrals don't necessarily come from the networking groups I'm in, but they're coming from people that I met through the networking groups that I'm in.
Yeah. It's not about, when you go to a networking group, it's not about the people in that room. It's about who they know. I'll share a quick networking story with you. When I was at the same chamber,
Yep.
and it was after the holidays, about this time of year, after Labor Day, and it was really low attended. When it was Jurgles.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
yeah.
highly attended.
Right.
And I was speaking that day. And of course, I'm speaking that day, and there's really low attendance. And somebody walks in, and you probably know who this is. I don't remember his name, but he was famous for not being a good networker. He walked in, saw like 5 people, turned around and walked out.
Oh.
So I thought, here's the thing when it comes to networking meetings. It's everybody in that room knows 100 people. How many people did you really walk out on?
Yeah.
When you leave a small networking meeting of 10 people and they each know 10 people, that's how many people you walked out on. 10 times the people that were in that
Right.
room. So, during my presentation, I tell people a piece of advice I'll give people is when I was giving this talk, I said, ask a lot of questions for somebody. Just learn about them. Spend time asking questions. And inevitably, I know it was a mortgage broker who said, okay, Al, I'm asking all kinds of questions. When do I tell them what I do? And I said, I don't tell people what I do until they ask, because if they don't ask, they don't care.
Right.
And if they don't care, they're not a good networking person. So when you go back to talking about, is it a good person? A good person will ask you. At some point, it's like, it begs the question, they're going to ask you at some point. Then there's the listeners, and then there's the people who are just waiting to talk.
Yeah.
That I think is fascinating. And I think that applies, if you look at your book, I think you talk a lot about who this book would be good for. That's what I want to get into, because it's not just people who go to networking meetings. It's the networking fundamentals transcend every part of your life.
Right.
From finding someone to date to finding a mechanic, the fundamentals don't change. And we spoke about this once. What if a guy, and I know a guy who does this, he works for a factory that makes filters for certain industries. Now, can he benefit from a networking meeting like this? And if not, how can he benefit from your book?
Yeah. So from the meeting, maybe doubtful, right? I mean, how many of us are going to be able to refer business to someone like that? It's very much
so
a niche
niche,
product, right? Or niche service. And so networking meetings don't work for everyone. But what the book does, I talk about that interaction, the one-to-one. When you have that coffee date with someone, biggest mistake, and I mentioned this in the book, typically it's people in the financial world, right? The financial planners, the mortgage guys, the insurance folks, even some realtors. Let's say I'm meeting you for coffee, and when we get together, I got my whole little packet, and I'm gonna show you, all the products I have, and tell you about all the things that you could purchase that you need in your life. Or if I'm in the health and wellness, I've got all my little samples that I want to give you, or I want you to watch this little video, 5-minute video, and I'll tell you, man, put that away. Put that away. None of that matters until I know and like the person across from me. Now, after that, I'm interested in what it is that you do and what you have. And so I teach a method that, you want to get to know them personally. And so when you do that, what happens is you start asking questions. You ask them about their family, and you ask them about their hobbies, and, tell me something you've done that you're proud of. And, you get people answering questions maybe that they haven't thought about. They certainly haven't thought about in a business setting or a business meeting. And all of a sudden you're having this conversation. The number one topic that people want to talk about is themselves. And if you're going on a date with someone from the opposite sex and all you did was ask them questions about themselves, they would leave, even though maybe it was all one-sided conversation, it was 90% one way and 10% the other. They would leave and they'd say, man, I had a great time. And I've had people where I sit down and I talk about this in my book about how to do this, and I take out a piece of paper, do the whole 9 yards, and where they never asked me a question. I sat there and interviewed them for an hour, and they told me all about their family and their hobbies and all kinds of questions I'm asking them. And at the end, they tell me about their business, and then they never asked me a thing. And I'm like, man, it was great meeting you, blah, blah, blah. We left. They don't know anything about me.
Right.
And I always smile, and to me, that was a great interaction. So they're not going to go home and say, boy, that Alex is such a jerk. They're not going to say that. They leave with this amazing feeling, right? They're always going to know how you made them feel. Now, there are people, like you said, Al, who say, they see my piece of paper. I'm asking them questions. They're like, well, hang on. Do you have a piece of paper for me? And
Right,
so
yeah.
I'll slide one across, and then they go, okay, whatever you ask me, I'm going to ask you. And those are cool too.
Yeah.
But it's more about finding out about that person across from you, because that's when you know really quick, this is someone that I want to refer business to. Is this someone I want on my team? Is this someone that I can connect with other people? My head's always spinning, and I'm thinking, man, you need to meet so-and-so.
Yeah.
Hey, someone tells me, I want to make videos or I want to promote myself. I need to be better at this. I'm like, do you know Al? And I literally have a stack of business cards that I carry in my backpack at all times that these are my guys, right? You're in there, and I got about 20 or 25 other cards in there that these are the people I'm going to refer to. They're not going to wet the bed on me.
Right.
If I give you this name, they're going to answer when you call them, and they're not going to let you down. They're going to make me look good.
Yeah, my financial planner had a similar story. He said a couple came into his office because they recommended him. One of their friends recommended him. This is like a sales thing too.
Yeah.
But they walked in his office and they said, "We're not going to sign up today." I mean, their guard was up. They told him, his name's Matthew Tremaine. He said, this couple came in and said, "We're not going to sign up with you today, Matthew. We just want to talk." They were expecting a sales pitch. And then he said, "I understand. That's fine." He asked them a few questions, and they spoke for 45 minutes. And then when it was all over, they signed up with him on their way out. When they said they were not going to sign up, he says, they walked out thinking, "We like you. We don't know why, but we like you. There's a great relationship." He goes, "You know what's fascinating about that, Al, was I never said a thing."
Yeah.
the entire meeting,
Right.
He didn't try to sell himself. He tried to learn about them. And I think people respect that. I mean, let people talk. Let me ask you a tricky question. This comes up a lot. And I saw this in a networking meeting. And everybody always has this problem. I'm in a networking group, and it's not an exclusive networking group.
Right.
So we know the BNIs, one
Yep.
realtor, one chiropractor,
Yep.
one financial planner, shooting fish in the barrel, the fox in the hen house. But what if I'm in a chamber-like environment? And I was at a chamber meeting once, and it dawned on me, this one woman walked in. She's from Coldwell Banker. She started selling. Coldwell Banker is one of the best real estate companies in the world, and this is why. If you ever need a realtor, call me. And she sat down. A few other people went by. Another person came up and said, "I'm also with Coldwell Banking. I'm a realtor. I do residential real estate."
Yeah.
All for the same reasons she does. And she didn't know what to say. So how do you, in a room where there's competition like that, how do you stand out? How do you get people to nod your direction, other than additionally to what you just said, looking for a good person? How do I stand out if there's other people doing the same thing I do?
Yeah. So for me, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight anyone. And you've seen me in these meetings. You've seen me in the chamber meetings where there's 3-4 realtors sometimes in this room. And so when I stand up, I deliver my commercial. But at the end, I'll always end it with, "Hey, look, there's 4 professionals in this room. And so, don't go it alone. Come see one of us, whether I'm pushing or talking about, someone looking to purchase, there's 4 realtors in this room, 4 professionals that can help you, rather than say, "I'm the guy, I'm better."
Right.
Because as soon as you do that,
I sit down and listen to people. Everyone says that.
Yeah,
I'm different.
You might be saying "I'm better." What people are hearing is he's a jerk, right? And man, that's the thing. And I talk about this in the book, is the power of the brand that you are creating.
So it's not the Caldwell Banker she should have been selling.
No, because I can cover this little balloon, and I can put any logo I want here. People aren't working with my broker when they work with me. They're working with me, right? So you could have a real estate company or a mortgage company or an insurance company that has a horrible reputation, but you're awesome. People are working with you. And so you've got to brand yourself, and you are branding yourself. People don't know it. If you're late to meetings all the time and you're coming in hurried and you're frazzled, people are looking at you and they're like,
It's a silent killer.
Do I want you handling my finances? I want you advising me on stuff? You kind of don't have your own stuff together.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be aware of how you present yourself. If you're going to appear defensive to others in a meeting when there's competition, does that mean that you're not going to be able to handle yourself when, if I'm in a room with other realtors and I can't play nice, how am I going to go fight for your offer, especially when one of those agents is on the other side of that transaction? You want me to be friendly, outgoing, opening, welcoming. Hey, there's plenty of business for all of us. I still may think I'm better. I still may have my own little niche and things that I do that are different than everybody else does. You don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
If you're good, people will know you're good.
Yeah. So you wrote this book, Great People Know Great People. That in and of itself is an achievement. What made you think, okay, I want to go down the road and write a book, considering what it takes to write a book? Walk me through the book writing process,
Right.
and how it went for you from an idea till you just brought the copy of it today. I remember you posted a video. You're opening the box you got with your
Yeah.
book, and there it is in your hand.
Yeah.
From that first step, I think I want to do this. It wasn't easy.
No.
I'm imagining. So would you do it again? And tell me a little bit about the process.
I absolutely would do it again. I wouldn't think so. I never would have thought myself, as an author. The idea came when I started getting the opportunities to speak, and I would speak on networking and really enjoyed it. And then I found that people were very open to receiving this information, coming back and giving me feedback like, hey, you taught me how to do one-on-ones, and dude, this is life-changing. Everything from students in school, people in the workplace, where they're like telling me that, hey, I'm on my first job, I'm young, people discount me, and I tell them about my Hangs method. And I said, go to your supervisor and do this. Invite them to coffee and do this with your supervisor and see if this doesn't change anything. And I got contacted like a month later and saying, oh my gosh, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And how the relationship has changed just because they showed interest on a personal level versus a work level. And so then I always kind of had this dream of, I'd like to write a book about this. I think I have, information here that's useful. Fast forward, I was at an event. It was a leadership, it was a discipleship retreat that I was at, and I happened to be in a cabin. There were 4 of us, and one of the guys there was a publisher. Him Publishing is what it is. Harrington Interactive Media, I believe, is publishing is what it is, and he mostly publishes books that are, Christian books, etc. And so when he introduced himself and told me what he did, I said, oh, that's interesting. I said, I've got a goal to write a book. And he says, well, you got to write it. I'm going, well, of course you're going to tell me to write it, And he even offered, he said, hey, if you just write down some thoughts, he goes, just tell me one story that you'd like to tell in that book and send it to me. I'll give you feedback. And I thought, that's really generous of him, right? So right then and there, it wasn't like, hey, I'm trying to sell you anything. He just offered it to me. I never did it, right? But probably 6 months later, he hit me up and he just kind of said, hey, look, I'm starting this author coaching program. Going to team you up with a coach, blah, 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 and take you through the entire process of writing a book. I know that you had interest in doing that. Would this be something that interests you? And I said, absolutely. So, that started in September of last year, a year ago. And so I had a coach that I worked with. We met every week. And that was an amazing experience, right? I would just do free writing on whatever subject I wanted, send it to her. She'd kind of give me some, thoughts about what I was doing and how I was doing it. And then it just became the process of over this course of 8 weeks, I was going to basically have my book mapped out, every chapter planned, outlines for every chapter. I was going to have a working title and everything that I needed. I just needed to go back afterwards and then finish writing the book. But there's no way that I would have known what to do had I just done it on my own. It would have been terrible.
Yeah, it would have been impossible.
And my thought process was, if I'm going to do this, I don't want it to suck. Right? Bottom line.
Right.
If I'm going to do this, it needs to be good. And my purpose for writing the book isn't to sell a million books. I would love the opportunity to go speak. That's what I love to do. I love getting in front of people and teaching them and talking to them about, doing the one-to-ones and delivering your commercial. And, I love making people laugh when I share, how I stepped in it so many times and some of the mistakes I made, because I think it really makes me relatable. It's like, I'm not some, guru out there. I screwed a lot of stuff up and I learned how to improve it. If I had to move tomorrow to a new state, new place, start all over, there's no doubt in my mind I could do this over again. Today, 80% of my business, over 80% of my business comes from referral year after year after year. And I moved here going on almost 10 years ago without knowing a single person. So it's something that I know is duplicatable, and it's super simple.
So what you like to speak, and you've written a book, and you're a realtor for Remax.
Yeah.
How does someone get a hold of you? And before we get into that detail, and we're going to provide links on how to get a hold of you and how to get your book. But what is on the horizon for Alex Giannetti? Where do you see yourself other than you want to speak? You want to do more of that? You want to travel some more doing that? Or what do you
I
see
guess
yourself
that
in
would
3 or
be
4
kind
years?
of the goal, the dream, to be able to go and speak and do some of those things. I'm not going to walk away from my business, here in
Right.
Pittsburgh, still do that, but it's not something that's 24/7. It's something that I can do a lot remotely other than show houses. And I got a team of agents that help me do that now. But, I would love the opportunity to go speak to groups and speak to companies and, the organizations out there that want their people out meeting people and networking. And I want to stop or minimize the impact or the number of people who walk out of a chamber meeting saying, yeah, I've gone to the chamber. Chamber doesn't work.
Yeah, or I got nothing out of it.
Yeah, it's not the chamber,
I had a
dude.
guy-
It's you. Yeah,
I had a
right?
landscaper. He comes.
Yeah.
I asked him. I said, he's like, I don't know if this is working. I haven't got anything. I haven't got any referrals. I got nothing out of this. And I said, instead of saying it that way, tell me what you put into it.
Yeah.
0.
You-
I'm
you-
like, do you expect to get something out of this when you put it out? You're counting what you're getting, but you're not counting what you're giving. So garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
That's how it works. Yeah.
You gave me this, quote, which is, networking is a picnic, right? So if we are all going to go to this picnic, but I don't bring anything, but I expect to eat something, and everyone thinks like I do, and no one brings anything, that picnic's going to suck,
No one's going to want
right?
to go to that
And,
picnic.
and I can't walk away upset because what did I bring?
Right. You contributed to that. Nothing.
Yeah, you got to bring something.
So how do we get a hold of you? You have your own. You say you have realtors working for you, but you're Alex Giannetti. Is there a website we get to? How do we find
There
you?
is, yeah. From a realtor standpoint, alexgiannetti.com. From the book, it's book-greatpeople.com. And so excited on that. I'm on every social media platform, and thanks to you, I'll be sharing a lot of video clips and content, little short little training sessions and little insights into the book. And you can find the book on Amazon.
I think it's a great book for anyone who's either growing a business. I don't care if you work for yourself as a lawyer, if you're a painter, you have to talk to people. It's all about people skills is what I like about it. And it's like that go-to book, even if you don't go to a networking meeting that's for networking, just how to meet people and be genuine, I think is the key to that. And I think we try too hard to be, we pass up genuine.
Yeah.
I think it was a great book. And I think this was a great conversation. I hope people benefit from this. If they listen to you and read your book, we'll all rise as networkers because we'll start helping each other, not trying to get something out of it and probably put more into it. I appreciate you being here tonight and sharing all that with us. And the book was fantastic. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I love being here and appreciate the opportunity to talk.